One topic that I do want you to hit, if you would be so bold to do that, is to talk just a minute about this word that's triggering so much anger across America right now, which is the word white, or the two words white privilege. When I use white privilege, of course, I don't mean it in the stance or standpoint of it gives people a free ticket over the bridge of hard work. No, I don't believe that. I think that white people have to work very hard to be successful if they want to succeed. Mm-hmm. I think very few come from 1%ers or the 10%ers or the 20% population that mom and dad just give them a free ride their entire life. I don't think that most people are inheritance babies or that they truly grow up with a silver spoon in their mouth, as it's really said, to where they're promised CEO jobs or presidencies or any of those kind of things. I think they have to work very, very hard. But there is a certain degree of white privilege that goes beyond a pathway to just immediate success, and it brings you through some pretty rocky territory that seems to disqualify people of color from making it through. So if you could just unfold that a little bit, because I know that was a word that really offended you at first when I was thrown around. But kind of express what white privilege means to you as a white person, right? And then how you've seen it expressed in the world that we live in.
Yeah, white privilege, that word invokes a lot of emotion in people. There's two words. There's Black Lives Matter and there's white privilege, and it invokes serious emotions in the white population. If you look at it, so I lived in Georgia for a little while as a single mom. I didn't have any assistance. I was not on welfare. I didn't have child support. It was literally me taking care of my son. I was working a full-time job, full-time student, full-time mom. I was not
grinding.
Yeah, just all day and all night. And that was a lot of years of blood, sweat, and a lot of tears.
Yeah.
And I did not feel privileged.
Right.
Okay, so when people hear the word white privilege, when they don't understand what that means, they're instantly offended by it.
Yeah.
Because they look at their lives and their struggles and they say, well, I didn't get a handout.
Right.
Life was difficult for me. I grew up poor. I grew up in poverty. I grew up in a single parent home. Mm-hmm. I grew up with child abuse. I was abused growing up. The list goes on.
Sure. Shared experiences to many.
Right.
Similar to people of color. Sure.
So people, when they hear that word, they just think predominantly monetary things. Okay, so that is for me the best way I think I can explain it, at least from my perspective, how I feel people perceive that. Because when I hear the arguments, I didn't get free money to go to college, I didn't get free handouts, I didn't get this, I didn't get that.
Sure.
It's very much a monetary thing that they're talking about. Mm-hmm. When I first understood what white privilege was very much a situation in Georgia. So one night, I get this knock on my door. It's probably 3:00 in the morning. So I'm sound asleep and I'm disoriented, and I hear somebody banging on my door.
Like one of these brothers that finally come to collect on bringing these groceries in the house.
Oh my gosh. I was like, what is going on? So I go answer the door, and there's a firefighter there banging on my door saying, he's like, hey, miss, there's a fire. You need to get out of the apartment right away. And so, of course, instant panic comes in because I've got a toddler asleep. And I'm like, okay. So I asked the firefighter, I said, okay, how much time do I have? Because in my mind, I'm thinking I've got to get me dressed, my son dressed. It's cold outside. It's the middle of the night. How much time do I have? And he got so nasty with me and says, well, I don't care. Stay there if you want, but you need to get out. There's a fire. And I was so taken back by his aggression and hostility towards me that I genuinely just didn't know how to process that. So anyway, he slams the door and he's, of course, going on to the next apartment, and I'm getting myself dressed real fast because I don't genuinely know how much time I've got, like how big this fire is. Yeah. So I'm moving as fast as I can, getting Logan and I dressed, getting us out there. So I get us down the stairs, and of course, everybody from my building, everybody's, out there. We're all on the grass.
You got several hundred people
right,
out there.
Right. There's a ton of people out there, and we're sitting in the grass. It's cold. I've got a blanket wrapped around me and Logan, and we're watching these flames, right? These firefighters trying to take out these flames. So at one point in time, the firefighter that had come knock on my door, who was really rude to me, he was coming down the stairs, and all of a sudden he stops and he looks at me, and he has this almost perplexed look on his face when he's looking at me and my son. And he comes over and he says, "Ma'am, I'm so sorry." He's like, I just had a lot going on. He's like, "It's really cold. Would you and your son like to come sit in the fire truck so you don't have to be out here in this cold weather?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that would be amazing." Logan loved fire trucks.
Sure.
He had a fire hat at home and he just loved them. And so there was like 5 or 6 fire trucks at the time there. So he took us over to the fire truck that he was on, and he let us sit in there. It was the first time I'd ever been on a fire truck,
right.
too. And Logan was super excited, so he was having the time of his life. And so we were sitting there out of the cold, being warm. Probably took about an hour before we were able to go back inside till they started finally letting people in there.
Powerful.
And, at the time, I didn't think anything of it, right? You just don't,
Sure.
You don't think anything of it. Probably over the next few days, I started kind of thinking about the situation.
Right.
And I realized that something hit me. I was the only person that got asked to go sit in a fire truck.
Yeah.
So as I'm sitting in there with my son, I'm looking at all the other people with their small children, and they're sitting out in the cold.
Did you say there's 10 kids out there, 20, 50?
Oh, probably, yeah, easily. I would say there's probably was at least a dozen children, ranging from babies, on up.
Right.
And the thought came to me, I thought, I'm not understanding why, one, his attitude changed after he saw me and my son alone out there. And then all of a sudden, it hit me. And I realized that when he first opened my door, there was an assumption that I was there with a black man, right? Because pretty much everybody there was black.
Sure.
But then when he sees my very white son and me, then all of a sudden his total demeanor changed. And all of a sudden he was super nice, super kind, said, "Hey, let me help you." But I was the only person he helped. He didn't make that offer to anybody else. And that was the moment when I understood what white privilege meant.
Right.
It's not a monetary thing, because that in itself is a whole different issue and a different topic.
Sure.
But it's about...
And active and real.
Right, for sure. Because everybody, no matter whether you're white, Asian, Hispanic, black, doesn't matter. There is all levels to financial stability.
Sure.
Right. So there's going to be poor white people, poor Asian people. It's across the board. So for a person who lives in that level, to hear white privilege makes us angry. Right. But that is the moment that I realized what it meant. That it wasn't a monetary thing. It was being treated like a human being.
Sure.
It was that moment to where it's the expectation that people are going to just treat us like human beings.
Right.
They're going to extend that kindness because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.